Well, hello again, my friend. My name is Jason Stapleton, and thanks so much for checking out this video. If you are building your first website in 2021, or if you're doing a major overhaul or rebrand, then this is going to be much must-watch training for you. I'm confident in saying that this is going to be the most in-depth training that you will find anywhere for free. And since I don't design websites for a living, but I am in the marketing and the branding business, I don't really have a dog in this hunt. I just want to share with you what I know is working and what I know will increase your conversion rates to your site no matter what industry you're in. And so at the end of this, I will tell you the name of a company if you're interested in somebody who does in fact do this for a living and who I trust because they did my website. Then I'll do that at the very end for you guys as well. But as of right now, let's just go ahead and kind of kick things off. The very first thing. And we're going to do this a little bit different. I'm going to go ahead and grab my little thing here and we'll go through. I got a little slide deck. It was more just to keep me kind of focused rather than to be entertaining for you. But the first thing you need to understand about a website is the only reason, with rare exception, the only reason to have a website is to get leads. The vast majority of people that come to your site are not going to buy the first time. There needs to be a level of trust that's developed there with them, and that's going to take some time. If you want to keep two numbers in your head, these are the two that are important, 21 and 33. It takes, on average, 21 days and 33 touches for someone who is exposed to your brand or to your product to end up buying that product. And that means the most important thing that we can be doing as marketers, as business owners, is trying to acquire contact information from the people who are coming to our site in order to be able to continue to market to them after they leave, because it's going to be a 98%, probably 99% bounce rate from people who show up on your site. They're not going to buy the first time. And so when I talk about high converting websites, what I'm really talking about is generating a lead, getting a name and an email address so that you can continue to contact them. Now, those of you who are in e-commerce, you might think to yourself, well, no, I really need to sell and I've got all this advertising that I'm pouring into getting people to the site so that I can get a sale from them. Understand that even then, if you're running a really effective e-commerce site, you're going to be looking at a 3 to 5% sale rate of the people who come to your site. That's if your marketing is really good. And you're probably not covering the cost of your advertising and your marketing with that first sale. It's going to take continued on sales. Now, for the other 95%, not to 98% of people who show up, who see your whatever it is that your wares, your t-shirts, your handbags, whatever, and they end up bouncing, before they leave, we really want to try and get that contact information because most of them are really interested in buying. They just are looking at it on a cell phone and like, okay, I'll go back and do it later. And if you're like me, you send it to yourself or you save it and then you end up coming back later. But a big percentage of people don't. And so again, this is really, really important from the jump. You understand that a high converting website is what we're after. We're looking to create leads from the site itself. And what we're going to be covering in here today are a few different things. First and foremost is just a bit of history showing you the evolution of websites. And I know that under normal circumstances, this would be ridiculous to waste time on. But when we're done, what you're going to have is a really clear understanding of why people are doing things the way they're doing them now and why many of those things are no longer effective. If you don't have the history of websites and where we've come on the internet over the last roughly 10 or 20 years, then you can't understand really fully why I'm suggesting you do things the way that you do them. So we're going to start out with that. Then I'm going to give you some specific do's and don'ts on modern web design. I'm going to give you some ideas on the cost of both time and money. Some of you will want to do it yourself. If you so choose. It's a very difficult thing to do if you've ever tried. Or you might want to hire somebody to do it. And there's a broad range of prices from $500 to $15,000. So what can you expect to pay? What's reasonable? Those are all questions that everybody has when they're getting ready to launch a website. Then we're going to discuss best practices depending on your business model and your objectives. So as I said before, the different businesses have different objectives, and how do you need to set the site up in order to convert well for your specific objective. And then we're going to talk about the rebrand and the redesign of my website. I created this with a guy named Nate and his team at ChromaSites. I'll give you their information at the end of this. And I want to show you guys exactly what they did and how we used rebranded my website to be at the exact high converting website that I'm talking about. So let's talk a little bit about the history. If you go back to the 1990s, websites were very, very new, and most of them were just a large repository of information. It was a place for databasing. And you see communication platforms and chat rooms at that time really came into their own. You remember AOL chat, where the long strings of chat rooms. Some of you don't, you're far too young. But I remember as a kid, I was 14 years old, I think, when my father first got an internet connection at his office, and he would have the chat rooms open and he'd be going to these things called websites, and they were crude, kind of like, as I said, repositories like this. Now, it's funny, if you guys know Heaven's Gate, Heaven's Gate is a cult, and it's one of the few remaining sites that you can still go to, that is still up from the 1990s, to get an idea of what sites kind of looked like back then. And this was largely it. As you can see, background colors were dark. It was very hard to read. It was really copy intensive, just pages and pages of written documentation. And this is what almost all websites were at that time. And it's important to understand that people didn't really know how to use a website back then. We didn't have the internet that we have today. And so this was really what it was used for. If you needed information, large databasing of information, or you wanted to explain your cult to people, then this is what you would do. Now, by the early 2000s, you had some companies that were really starting to figure out the value of having the website. Now, it was still really a place for all of the information to go. But companies like Disney, Nickelodeon, and MSN were starting to figure out a way to sort of organize that information in a way that was easier to get at. So instead of just having links and texts, you started seeing things like pictures, right? So Disney would come here. Disney would come and it had areas for you to go and things, images you could click on. Nickelodeon was famous for having a lot of really heavy colors to kind of break up the content and give you the different areas. And so they started creating really front-end faces of these websites so that you knew where to click on and where you wanted to go. It made it a lot easier to navigate. But again, it was still a place where all the content was that you could ever want to know about Disney was on that site. Okay. Then, by the early 2000s, some things started to change. Primarily what happened was a lot of really successful direct response marketing people figured out that the internet was going to be a great place to start marketing what they were already marketing, either through the mail or on television. Now, that's not to say that these were like shady marketing people. Most of them ran really successful businesses. And they did it, and they were able to generate leads and sales through direct response approaches. Now, direct response marketing is nothing more than sending them, today it would be sending them an email or sending them a letter in the mail that says, hey, buy my stuff, and explaining why, and then they send back and buy it. That's direct response. Now, the one problem with that was it was very difficult to build out the same sales funnels that they had done manually in their businesses online. It required very custom coding. You had to have developers on staff. And at that time, those developers were pretty expensive. You had to have $70,000, $80,000, $100,000 a year to have somebody who would code websites for you. And so they were the only guys who could afford to do it well, either that or the large companies. So as these marketing guys started to come into play, and you started to see more and more of them setting up funnels and direct response stuff over the internet, a couple of things started to happen. The first thing is in 2006, Google buys YouTube. The reason this is important is it started to change the way the internet worked. This was the very, very, very beginning of social media. And in 2009, a company called Unbounce launched one of the first page builders, making it easier for the average person to create a sales process online. When I started my first business in 2009, we were clients of Unbounce. It was a simple page builder that had drag and drop functionality, so you didn't have to code up your websites anymore, and we didn't have to pay a top dollar to have somebody come in and do it and constantly make changes. This was a real game changer for those of us who were just getting into online business back in the early 2000s. Okay. Then in 2014, ClickFunnels was founded, and it quickly became the most popular funnel builder software on the market. Many of you may know about ClickFunnels, but it really became a game changer. And Russell Brunson over there did something magical when he figured out a way to create a custom funnels that took people through an entire sales process that literally anyone could use, regardless of your skill level or your background in the internet. Okay, and then something really treacherous happened. Marketers figured out, the average internet marketer figured out that they could make a ton of money by selling stuff online, and they decided that they were going to get into the game. And so this was the world that I grew up in when I started my business. Internet marketers were becoming a thing. They were starting to develop products, and they were working with other brands to help them do something that they'd never been able to do before. And that was acquire their own lists of leads rather than just buyers. So let me explain. As I talked about before, direct response marketing folks typically worked by renting email lists, renting mailing lists from large mail houses. So let's say you ran a fitness business and you sold fitness equipment, and you wanted to get at people who might be interested in buying your equipment. Well, one of the ways you could do that prior to the internet was to go and rent all of the names and mailing addresses of people who subscribe to Fitness Magazine, right? Muscle and Fitness. And then you could send them a catalog, you could send them a couple of direct mail pieces telling them about your company, and then they could request the catalog, you could send it to them and hopefully make some sales. Well, the downside to that back then and the way they did it was you couldn't really acquire a lead. You could rent the lists of somebody else's subscribers or somebody else's buyers, but unless those people actually bought something from you or at a bare minimum requested a little bit of information from you, you didn't get any information from them. And what the internet did, which has revolutionized marketing for most of us today, is it gave you the ability to generate large lead lists of your own that you didn't have to pay any money for. And so what you started to see about this time, and again, this is kind of the 2010s-ish period, is you started to see companies transform their landing page, the primary page of their website, into a lead acquisition site. And as you can see here, Loop, you had Square at this time, and Assistly. These are all website pages from the 2000s, from around 2010. And they started putting contact form and get some free information on the front of their websites to try and get people to give them the contact information so they could continue to market to them and hopefully make sales down the road. This was, as I said before, an absolute game changer for our ability to market and to promote our products. And it worked really, really well. In fact, you see this is one of the primary things I tell people to do is whatever you do on the front page of your website, above the fold, meaning before they scroll, is you need to put a call to action in there. You need to offer them something of value. And for most people, this was what is now commonly referred to as the ethical bribe. It says, I will give you something of high value if you will give me your contact information. And at the beginning, it worked awesome because internet was new and they didn't have this was a new concept to people. And so it was relatively easy to get people to give you their contact information. It's a lot more difficult today, and it's getting harder by the day, which is why we have to be better as business owners and marketers if we want to be successful. Now, with this new way of acquiring leads, people started using stuff like Unbounce and ClickFunnels to build out simple sales funnels. And you can see one here, whether you're coming from Facebook or Instagram or Twitter or YouTube, wherever, they send you to this ethical bribe. I'll give you something of value, you give me your email address. And then they would take you to a content page where they gave you the stuff that you asked for, and then they continue to follow up and email you and offer you more products. And hopefully, if they did a good job, not all of them did, but hopefully constantly delivering really good value to you so that you wanted to stay a subscriber. And hopefully the products and services that they sold were things that you really wanted and that you could really benefit from. It didn't always work that way. It still doesn't, as many of you know. But I hope that each one of you still is trying to deliver real value in excess of what you ask for in return from your subscribers and your buyers. And once they figured out how to do this, they said, well, let's just do this a bunch of times. Let's do this for every single product. Let's have a series of funnels that we create. And then we started asking questions like, well, what do I really even need a website for anymore? Because if what I'm doing is going out and marketing to people and I'm sending them to a sales page or an ethical bribe page and they're signing up for my stuff and then I'm emailing them more offers for more things, what is the value of a website? And by 2015, this is the way I kind of saw websites going. If you'd asked me 5 years ago, hey, what do you think is going to happen to websites in the next 5 to 10 years? I'd say, well, I think you're probably going to see them die off because we don't really use websites the way we used to. Not if you're primarily an internet-based company. What we do is we create long sales funnels. This is, again, a little more complex sales funnel, but still relatively simple. You take them from your ethical bribe to a sales page. You say, hey, do you want some free stuff? And they say yes. And then you say, oh, okay, well, would you also like to buy something? And if they say yes, then you take them to an order page and they buy and you send them to an upsell page. And then if they purchase that, then you take them to a thank you. And if not, you just send them to the content that you gave them. And hopefully through your continued marketing, eventually you can win them over. And so a lot of companies, in fact, a lot of brands were building out tons of these funnels for every product that they had. And they were just running these funnels over and over and over again to their lists. And I'm sure if any of you have been on the internet for any length of time, you have experienced this, and there's been a lot of fatigue from it. It doesn't work as well as it used to, still very effective, but not nearly as effective as it was 10 years ago, okay? That takes us to 2021. Now, as I said before, all that's really important because it teaches us a lot about kind of the evolution of the internet and the way we generate leads and make sales. So in 2021, a lot has changed. And primarily, this is the biggest one. Most of you, hopefully, will recognize this as the old school marketing funnel. And this is the way for 20 years we thought about marketing online. We'll make people aware of the product, they get a little bit of interest, a little bit of desire, and then a few of them take action. And the way it was always taught to me early on in my business career was you just put as many people as you can in the top, get as many leads as you can, and then eventually something will shake out the bottom. And for a long time, this worked really, really well. People would come to your site or they'd come to your squeeze page, they'd sign up for your thing, and a few of them would buy from you right from the beginning. And while it wasn't easy to recoup your marketing costs, it was simpler than it was today. But this isn't the way a modern day funnel works on the internet. This isn't the way people buy anymore. Despite the fact that this is what most people will teach you, this is not how it works in 2021. This is the way it works. There is an awareness phase that happens right here at the beginning, and then there's a consideration phase. And you all have experienced this. I know that this is how it works because every single person has done this. Maybe you see an ad online, or maybe you watch a video on YouTube. And the next thing that you do, if you got some value out of it, is you say, who is this person? What do I know about them? Do they have a Facebook page? Do they have a website? Do they have a podcast? And they get involved in what's called a research and discovery loop, where they spend time going out and looking for you on other parts of the internet. And then if you pass muster, if that trust and likability is established and they think that they're going to get value from you and that you're not going to hurt them, then they end up making a purchase. Remember those two numbers I told you, 21 and 33? 21 days and 33 touches? That's this discovery and research phase. Then after the purchase, there's what's called the post-purchase experience. So if there's a brand or a person that we like to follow online, after we bought something from them, we tend to stay involved with them. It's called the loyalty loop. This should say loyalty loop. The loyalty loop, where They're coming in, they're listening to your podcast, they're watching your YouTube videos and subscribing, they're a member, they're following you and they download your newsletter and they pay for that, or they your email newsletter. Whatever it is, they're staying involved with you. And so we have a responsibility in this discovery loop to make sure that we're providing high value content to the people that we want to attract. And then more importantly, is that we're continuing to deliver value to them in a variety of forms after they've purchased, so that they come back and they buy again and again. They tell their friends and family about us, so that hopefully we can expand our reach and get a little bit of organic sales and traffic from them as well. Okay. Now, where are we at today? As I said, the internet has changed quite a bit. We now have multiple social media sites that were not around in 2009. Audio and video podcasts are something that we now have that didn't, well, they were around then, but they were very, very small. Very few people knew about them. YouTube and Daily Motion for free video content. We have new blockchain and niche social media video sites that are popping up that are really, really interesting and cool. I'm anxious to see what happens with this. There are a lot of people doing some really cool work, and I think they're going to give the YouTubes of the world a run for their money in the future. You got popular blog sites like Medium and LiveJournal, where you can go out and build an audience of people who love to read what you put out and who will come and subscribe to your newsletters and blog posts. We have mobile communication like Telegram, WhatsApp, and Signal. These are little communities that you can build on these apps that are off of social media, but that still provide that social component that that lets you reach a customer base that's slowly going away. So if you take Facebook, for example, Facebook's basically a pay-to-play site now. Building a following on Facebook has almost no value at this point, because only about 0.5% of your followers will see any one post that you make. If you want people to see it, you're going to have to pay for them to see it, even if they've already subscribed. One of the ways you can get around that is by starting a Telegram group, where you can go out and you can do push notifications, you can have conversations with people. There are private text communities on WhatsApp, or even just regular text communities with things like community.com that give you an outlet to stay in front of your audience and to not have to pay for that audience over and over and over again. Now you've got people are moving away, as I said, from large-scale social media sites like Facebook to more niche platforms based on specific interests. And the question is, how do people find you in this sea of niche content platforms? You have probably asked this question because you likely have many social media sites, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and how do you direct people to these sites? Everybody kind of has their own thing, right? If you like reading, you tend to gravitate towards things like Medium. If you like watching videos, you tend to go to YouTube. If you prefer to listen to your content, then maybe it's an audio podcast. But however your audience likes to consume their content, and each person is a little bit different, having a place for them to do that is really important. But how do they find that thing? If they happen to stumble across you on Facebook, they don't know about your podcast. As they're in that discovery loop, how do we make it super easy for them to find the type of content in the medium they prefer, and then to give you their contact information? Well, your website has to become the portal that allows people to find you and engage with you on the platform of their choice. That's what a modern day website should be doing for you. And the easiest way I could think of to explain this to everybody was to think of it like a modern airport hub. So as you can see, Luxembourg here in the middle, and from Luxembourg you can get pretty much anywhere. You can get to Dublin, London City, you can get all the way out to Stockholm or Warsaw, but you can't fly from Warsaw, say, to Athens. You got to go from Warsaw to Luxembourg and then to Athens, or something of the like. I don't know if that's actually true, but it works for my analogy, so just stick with me. So here's the deal. What we want is we want the website to be the place where everyone can go to get to anywhere they want to and consume the content that they want from you the way they want to consume it. It looks like this. Doesn't matter where they start from. Maybe it's from Facebook. Maybe it's they listened to a podcast where you were a guest. Maybe they were a guest blog post or they saw a Medium article that you wrote. Whatever it is, we direct them back to the website. And from there, all your blog posts, all of your webinars, your ethical bribes and free stuff that you're giving away, your sales pages, all of your other social media sites are all there and easy to access so that this person, no matter where they find you, they can come and engage with you on the platform of their choosing and using the medium type that they prefer, okay? Now, let me show you my site and explain what we did with my site in order to accomplish this. So number one, as I said before, above the fold, that means before we scroll on the website, we want to have a call to action. And we want to make it clear in our call to action what it is that we do and what we're about and who we serve. And so my website, my ethical bribe is pretty simple. I know that my best buyers are readers. And I know they are really big consumers of content. And I know that if I want to keep my subscribers on my email list, that I'm going to have to continue to deliver value every single day in every email that I send. And so what I did and what I offer what I offer my visitors is a chance to get an unfair advantage in less than 3 minutes a day. And the headline says it all: give your business an unfair advantage in less than 3 minutes a day. If you own a business, right there in the headline, they know I work with businesses. I help them get an unfair advantage in a very short period of time. Then I say, get the daily newsletter that delivers the most actionable and tactical growth strategies available today, straight from the mind of a marketing genius. Yes, there's a little bit of wordsmithing there, but I mean, who's to judge? And then get an edge over your competition for free. And then a chance to sign up. And then under that, I give them a little bonus. I say, get my 3-part omnipresence training. Be everywhere your customers are all the time with minimal effort. And normally do sell that for $89. So it's pretty good value. And what this does is it helps them as they're developing the content. This free bonus is a value add to the newsletter. So if you are concerned about getting your message out, raising your profile, growing your business, and marketing what you do, then you're also going to be very interested in how do I create all the content? If I got podcasts and I've got courses I've got to teach, and I've got webinars that I do and YouTube videos I put out like this one. How on earth do I get all that done? You really do have to be prolific, but there are some things that you can do to really speed up that time and minimize the amount of time it takes you to create all that content. And that's what that 3-part series does. Then if we scroll down, I've got 2 other ways. The first way is my Daily Alchemy newsletter. And this is actually the same thing as this, but I present it in a different way. So I present them another chance to subscribe if they happen to just start scrolling. And I have a texting community. And this phone number here, 323-594-8781, actually does go to my cell phone, and I do my very level best to respond to any questions that might come in. I also communicate anytime I put out a decent YouTube video, anytime we've got a free training coming up or anything of value like that. I always let them know via text. It's another communication platform, and some people prefer that over email. I know I do. Next, I have an offer. And that offer is to join my Nomad Network. And the Nomad Network is nothing more than a community of digital entrepreneurs who are building their businesses and who want help, and they want to be in a community of people who are trying to scale. And I offer a free month of that so they can try it out. We got a great retention on that. That's why I feel really comfortable giving them a month for free, because basically nobody leaves once they get in. Then there's a little blurb about me, and then a couple of podcasts. And if you notice, this works just like the spoke on the wheel, right? I'm giving them a bunch of different ways to engage with me. Do you want me to engage with me like this? No? Well, what about this? No? Well, how about an offer? Do you want to join the community? No? Well, how about the podcast? Would you listen to a podcast from me? I'm telling them all the different ways that they can engage and how to get to me. Then I've got free download of my book, The Nomadic Wealth Formula, which I wrote last year during the pandemic. It's a phenomenal, I'm biased, but it's a pretty good book on the value of digital businesses and creating nomadic wealth. And so this is part of my brand. And so that's in there as well. Again, my best buyers are readers, so might as well give them something to read. And then some speaking engagements if they want me to come talk. And then there's some areas here for all my offers. And then finally, my thoughts. These are all the blog articles. I basically take my Daily Alchemy newsletter every single day, and I also post it to my blog. And then finally, down here at the very bottom, is access to my YouTube channel, and these are the last 3 videos that I posted on YouTube that they can quickly get access to. So as you can see, I'm basically doing exactly what I kind of showed you in the diagram, is that it doesn't matter where you come from. I'm going to direct you back to the website, and once you're on the site, now, however you like to consume content, you can do it from the website. It's an easy place to get to the information that you want. Now, back here at the top, I also have an uncluttered kind of like top nav bar. So if you go to current offers, all of my free stuff, all of my paid stuff is there. So right now I'm promoting my Finding Your Superpower, which is basically for aspiring entrepreneurs who are really struggling to kind of find where their talents and skills meet their passions and interests. And I work with them for over the course of about 2 hours in that training to help them kind of discover what would be a really great product to create, what would be a great business to be in, and what's going to really complement you as a person. Underneath that are all of the courses, all the products and stuff that I offer, both free and paid, and they're organized by free stuff, publications, and courses. So if you just want the free stuff, this is everything we got for free right now. If you want the courses, here's all the courses that I've got for offer right now. And it gives, as we continue to build out our course line, if I choose to do that, this will be a really helpful way for people to get at what they want really quickly. But again, make it easy, make it simple. There's not a ton of stuff in this top nav bar. This is important. We don't want to clutter up. Our website is not a repository for everything that we do. It's not 1990 anymore. It's 2021. It needs to be a place where people can go to find the stuff and the information they want to consume. All the extra stuff is down here at the bottom. Privacy policy, earnings disclaimer, all of this stuff is down here. It's not up junking up this top nav with a bunch of different drop downs and stuff like that. That's killing people right now in creating conversions. Remember, the goal is a conversion. The goal is a lead. The goal is to capture that information from people so that we can continue to market to them until we build that trust and we've had the repetitions and the days necessary to give them the confidence to come back and buy. Okay? So now let's come back to the little slideshow here. Well, 4 things that you should know about hiring a professional web designer. So if you are going to hire somebody rather than do this yourself, number 1, content is the most important thing. Very few web designers are also copywriters. Copywriting is a completely different skill, but all the fancy design in the world will not beat good copy. You remember the headline for mine, this headline, your business an unfair advantage in less than 3 minutes a day. It's clear, it's concise, it's well written, and it converts well. If you don't have that piece done and you don't have the ability to do it, that it's important when you hire a web designer that they either are competent at writing copy or they have someone on staff who is. And Chromosites with Nate will do that for you. They're fantastic, and they wrote they didn't write much copy on my site because I did most of it, but I know from the other work that they've done for clients that they're very, very proficient at it and they're good. Second, if you want a ballpark range for a decent website, you're going to spend between $3,000 and $5,000. That's a fair price for a website like the one I just showed you, like my website. And if you're getting a super cheap bid, maybe you're getting a really good deal. Maybe you've got a web designer who really doesn't know what they have to offer. That's less likely the case, and it's more likely that you're going to get something that is substandard. If you're paying in excess of $5,000, what you're really probably paying for more than anything is the name associated with who's doing the website. There's really for a site like the one I just showed you, $5,000 is more than adequate to get that done. So not all websites are user-friendly for you or your visitors. What do I mean by that? You need to make sure that the back end of the website, where you do the modifications and make the changes, that's easy to do. We use WordPress, and on the back of WordPress, it's built on the Elementor framework. So if you think of WordPress as kind of the foundation, then you can there's all kinds of different like website design programs that you add to WordPress to make it easy to navigate. We use one called Elementor, and it is phenomenal. It will do anything that you could possibly imagine when it comes to designing your website, and it's all drag and drop. It's super simple. There's no coding. Anybody can do it with a little bit of practice. So make sure if they're going to design a site for you that they are using a backend that's easy for you to make corrections. A shady web designer will make it very, very difficult for you to make corrections or changes yourself so that you have to go back to them and pay them an hourly fee to make those changes for you. There's no need for that, not in 2021. So make sure Elementor or something similar. Simple and effective is always better than comprehensive and hard to use. This goes back to, it's not a site from 1990. Make it simple, make it easy to navigate. Understand that we're really going to make offers all the way through the website. Do you want this? No. Do you want that? Does this interest you? Does that interest you? So that we can keep them in that discovery loop and we can keep nurturing that prospect until they're ready to buy. Here's a great example. Okay, this was one that Nate and his team did as an example. If you look on the left, this is the old site, Expert Consulting. Okay, that's terrible copywriting. Expert Consulting for what? You know, and maybe I stumbled across this. Maybe I know what it is I'm there to look at, but how do I know whether this particular company does what I need them to do? You know, you've got a picture in the background that doesn't have anything to do with aviation, which is what this company does. And then underneath that, they've got lots of heavy copy and images that really don't connect the company and the brand to the buyer. Versus, look at the right, structural engineering for the aviation industry. It's simple, it's concise. You know exactly what this company does, and within one sentence, the person who just landed on your site knows whether or not they're in the right place. Huge difference. Look at the imagery. The imagery matches what they do. It's aviation. You scroll down a little bit more, there's a small amount of text. They don't talk about 3 different people. They talk about the head honcho, and so on and so forth. So this is much more visually appealing. It's much simpler to navigate, and far less wordy and cumbersome. More importantly, it's well-written copy. As we said before, the content is the most important thing. So here, I'm going to close out this way. What are the 5 questions you should ask when deciding who to hire? Okay? First, have you designed websites for a business like mine? There are differences in designing a website for e-commerce versus designing one for consulting and coaching. Those sites will do different things, and you need to have somebody who knows what they're doing. Second, do you have experience writing good website copy? Again, most of them do not. If they say they do, make them prove it to you. Because I'm sure everyone, we can write copy. Absolutely, we can. Oh, really? Let me see what you've done in the past. If you want, you can always hit me up and ask me to look at it, and I can tell you within seconds whether it's good copy or not. Will my website be built on WordPress? Again, WordPress is still the very best and easiest platform. There are millions of plugins for WordPress that work great, so that you can do SEO optimization, so that you can quickly send out emails and stuff directly from your website itself. A massive amount of value in the WordPress framework. So just do yourself a favor and don't deviate from that. There are others, but don't deviate. Okay, will you help me with domain, email hosting, maintenance, plugins, and security? This is important because if you don't have a background in this, you need somebody who can handle all that for you. You need to be focused on one thing, getting leads and generating sales. You do not need to be worrying about whether or not your security credentials are up to speed, whether or not your hosting is working, and whether you've got enough bandwidth on the servers to handle the amount of traffic that you're getting. You don't need to figure out how to connect your domain to your website and all of that other hokey crap that takes you away from what's most important for you and your business. So make sure that they can handle that and find out what the fees are for that kind of thing. I think Chromasites and Nate, they charge me about $49 a month. And not only does that take care of all of this stuff, but they also make sure that my WordPress is always up to date, that all my plugins are up to date on the website. And most importantly, they take care of ensuring that anything that needs any sort of like additions that I want to do or changes, I get something like one small change, or like maybe I get some extra help from them every single month if I need it, to make small tweaks or changes to the site. If something's breaking or not working right, they'll come and just fix it as part of the payment that or part of the deal that they have with me. So that's a pretty good price. I think before I was paying close to $100 for all that stuff. So they're doing it for about half of what I was paying the other guys to do it for. So pretty decent group there. And then our photos included. This is one way that they get you. So if you are getting a site and you're going to be using stock photos, a lot of companies don't have access to the stock photos, or they charge you for the photos. They're like, oh yeah, the website's only $3,000, but you've got $1,200 worth of photos from Getty Images. That is something that we definitely do not want to have to pay for. So make sure that you ask that question before you sign on to have anybody do work for you. And guys, that's really it. That's the whole shebang. I hope that you got some value out of this. If you did, please leave me a comment, like, share, push this out there. I'd love for other people to see it and get the value out of it as well. As I said, Nate's company is called chromasites.com, CHROMESITES.com, chromasites.com. I'll put a little thing right there so you can see it. And well, that's it. Have a great day. Appreciate you. Talk soon.